What is going on, all of you gamers, professional and casual out there in the world? I am MegaAmpster. Thank you for checking out this video. If you're new here, hey, welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. Returning viewers, always great to see you here. Thank you for all the continued support over time. Really means a lot to me. We are here with probably one of, if not the most difficult video I've ever had to compile a list for, and that is my top 25 games of all time. So currently, this list always changes. I'm always playing new games, and other games get pushed out of the list. So this list was brutal. Let me tell you. Like, I sat down. Of course, it was the most popular voted video in the list in the poll that I had up on the channel for like which video to do first. I'm like, crap. That means I gotta like really scramble to do these. Now, some of these were pretty easy, and I knew were gonna be here. Like maybe like the top like 15 or so. The latter 10. These are not ranked, by the way. The latter 10, like I figured out my top 15 like are here. The other ones, I'm like, bro, like I was choosing between like 30 of them. I'm like, how do I narrow these down? And it took a lot of scrutiny, but one day I just said, screw it, we gotta do this. Narrowed a list down. This is not necessarily, this is my current list of October 2023. October 15th, 2023 as of the recording. So keep in mind, this will always be changing. That said, because I had so many to sift through, I kind of wanted to give some runner-ups. So I have 10 runner-ups for this list, not including the list, so we're just going to fly through these. Worms Armageddon. If any of you have played Worms at all, I played a lot of Worms Armageddon back on the Dreamcast. Loved playing that game with my brother, although I was pretty bad at it and never fully learned the game itself, so I feel like I missed out on a lot of it, so that's not here. Power Stone 2 specifically, if you've seen my Power Stone video on the channel, I mentioned that I played a lot of 2, especially the arcade mode back in the day, and it felt like a more expanded version of Power Stone 1 to me. But alas, I'm not good at fighting games, but I love the idea. It probably is my favorite fighting game that I've ever played. Donkey Kong Country, the original on Super Nintendo. 2's good, but I don't know, there's like something about the original that has a lot more nostalgia for me. Enjoy it, but I have my frustrations with the classic DKC trilogy, so it didn't make the list. Crazy Taxi, love that game, very arcadey. Just not enough substance fully for me to put it up there. Banjo-Kazooie. Now, I know this is going to piss some people off. I am not a huge fan of how Banjo and Kazooie control. The first game is still very charming. That's why it came so close to making the list. If it was a top 30, probably would have made it. It's just like the control I'm not a huge fan of. And like some of the later levels, especially Click Clock Wood, I love the theming, but to play the level, it's horrendous. Ori the Will of the Wisps came very close. One of the best Metroidvanias I've played. Very smooth, very fluid. Added a lot of combat options, and the exploration's great. It just didn't quite make the cut. Cuphead, we're listening to the soundtrack for the DLC now. Very close. I love the style of Cuphead. I love the music. It's just infuriating, which is why it did not make the list, man. It's such a struggle. I considered it so much, but it infuriates me so much. It's so brutally difficult. So didn't quite make the cut. Half-Life 2 almost made it. Classic PC game I really got addicted to while I played it. It's just compared to some of the other games on this list, it's less unique and not as special to me personally, but it came very close. Shrek Super Party. None of you are probably going to know this game. I actually do have videos of Let's Plays up on the channel about these. Excuse me. Just like a Mario Party knockoff, but I have a ton of like memories playing this with like siblings and friends, and it's dumb. It's like it came really close to making the top 25 actually, which is kind of funny, but did not quite make the cut. Just because some of these other games are better, right? It's a little jank and not the highest quality. Last but not least for the honorable mentions is Fur Fighters, which a lot of you probably don't know. I played it a lot on the Dreamcast. Think Banjo-Kazooie with guns. Like literally, you play as a bunch of different animals that equip weapons, go around and just like shoot bears. And it's like the same, like not quite the polish, but the charm is like a 3D rare platformer. So it didn't quite make the cut because the controls are really weird. And there's a little bit of lack of polish here and there. But that is it for the runner-up. So let's get into the actual list here. Now, I'm going to go, to make this more interesting, like I said, the last 10 were like really tricky for me to pick. So I'm going to start at like the games that I know are top of this list for me. So we will start with very epic music. We will start with, of course, if you're here on the channel, you know I love Sonic. You see the GIF right there. I love Sonic. Now, which Sonic game is on this list? Now, I was between 3 different choices. 1 3D and 2 2D. Now, those of you who know me might know what those picks are. Ultimately, and it came very close, it was between Sonic Adventure, which was the first game I remember ever playing in my entire life, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and the winner, Sonic Mania. Like, I have to. Sonic Mania was such a special game. And like, I played the classic Genesis trilogy before, and I did not grow up on them. Like I said, I grew up on Sonic Adventure and then the 3D games following. But when I played Mania, it was such, you could tell how much passion was behind this game. Love the music, of course. I love almost all the levels around. It made some horrible levels in the past way more fun. I love Oil Ocean in this game. I love Metallic Madness in this game. You know, it made some of them more fun. Titanic Monarch is kind of an ending one, but like everything else is just absolute bangers. Lava Reef I really like in this game. You know, whereas in 3 Knuckles I don't like it as much. Sonic 3 Knuckles came very close. I replayed it recently in Origins, but it's just, Mania is so special. It's so fluid. The drop dash, if you've seen my ranking of Sonic abilities video, the drop dash is, I think I put it as my #1 Sonic ability of all time. It is such a game changer in such a positive way. And you got the playable characters. You can do different combinations. They added Mighty and Ray with Plus and Encore mode. The special stages are some of the best in the franchise. It's like, overall, it is such a good package. We'll see what happens with Superstars. Maybe it'll replace Mania. I don't think it will, but maybe it will. Sonic Mania came very close. Like, Sonic Adventure came very close is what I meant to say. But like, I replayed it like a little over 2 years ago, and man, the parts that aren't great are really not great. Like Big's whole story, even Amy, Gamma's okay. It's like, Sonic Mania to me is so much more of a fun package overall. So I have really good memories of it. Anyways, that's the Sonic game. The other one we got to get out of the way would be my current favorite Nintendo franchise, which would be Metroid. Now, the question is, I mean, those of you who have watched my videos, you know which one is going to be the pick. But before, like, maybe 5 years ago, I probably would have said Metroid Prime. And while I love the original Metroid Prime and I replayed Remastered, when I replayed it earlier this year, I was like, this is a really good game, but it's not my favorite. And that's because 2 years ago, actually almost exactly 2 years ago as of this recording, we got Metroid Dread. And man, this game is my favorite Switch game. It's so good. It is so good, so atmospheric. I get the critique that the music isn't as like catchy as some other Metroid games, sure, but they kind of, instead of the catchiness, they go for the atmospheric, and it nails the atmosphere. You're getting hounded by the enemy. It kind of like raises some like anxiety and terror in you, which, I mean, I don't love horror games, but like they do a great job here while still making it such fluid gameplay. Controlling Samus in this game, and this is the main thing that sets it apart from Metroid Prime. Something that means a lot to me in video games is control and just how it feels to move as the character you're playing. And I am sorry, Samus in Prime is kind of a tank. Like, in terms of the platforming, we'll get to this later. Actually, there's another relevant game here. Not Metroid. But like, it's so much more fluid to control Samus in Dread. It's so good. The constant like feeling of upgrading and getting the collectibles. Same thing. I mean, all Metroid games pretty much do that flawlessly, but Dread especially. And it's just, the bosses are so good. The immersion. Oh, it's so good. I got a Metroid Dread, man. It's such a special game for me. I get goosebumps every time I like hear like the main trailer, the E3 trailer music. It is good. It is good. All right. Moving on to another Nintendo franchises. Spoiler alert, you will see a lot of Nintendo franchises on this list. Also, I want to clarify, because I forgot at the beginning, no more than one game per franchise. With one somewhat exception, it's a sub-series. We'll get to that later. But moving on to another popular Nintendo franchise would be Zelda. Now, I do really like Zelda. It's up there for one of my favorites. Not like top of the Metroid for me is my favorite Nintendo franchise, but Zelda's certainly up there. Now, Zelda's had a lot of great games over the years, and I've played almost all of them. The only ones I haven't played are like Minish Cap and Oracle of Ages, I think, at this point. I have discovered that for the most part, I prefer some of the top-down 2D games. Like A Link Between Worlds came very close to making this list. Link to the Past, no, we don't need to talk about that. You guys know my hot take on that, but Link Between Worlds came so close to making this list. And I love Link's Awakening. Oracle Seasons was solid. The less we talk about the original, the better. But there's one 3D game, like all the games are great. There's one 3D game in particular that I have such an emotional connection to. And it was almost Ocarina of Time. It was almost. I used to love that game. But then I played the remakes on 3DS of two Zelda games, one being Ocarina of Time and the other one being Majora's Mask. And let me tell you, when I played the original Majora's Mask on, it was actually the Zelda collection on GameCube, that Club Nintendo special, I didn't really care. I was playing through it and I was like, oh, okay, it's okay. Ocarina of Time I was in love with, but like Majora's Mask, I was like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. And I don't know what it was, but literally just a few years ago, as of this recording, I played Majora's Mask 3D. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I will admit here on video, I literally cried at the Anju and Kefe like reunion at the big side quest in that game. And like, I didn't really care when I first played it, but for some reason it hit. And I don't know if it was just because of the pandemic, obviously at that time, like had just not too long ago happened, but like it just hit me so hard. I don't know. I have such an emotional connection. The Song of Healing and so many other songs in the soundtrack give me literal chills now, kind of similar to Metroid Dread. I love it. I love it. I love the side quests. I love how like much there is a focus on the characters in the world of Majora's Mask, and like the dungeons are still pretty good, I think. They're just like, it's a shorter Zelda game, and honestly I love that. I love that there's a focus on this and then kind of go back in time and replay. It's a really cool mechanic, and I know you either love it or you hate it, right? But I absolutely love Majora's Mask. It is my favorite Zelda game. Anyways, another one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, let's get the Nintendo ones out of the way, as some of you may know, is Kirby. I love Kirby. You know, Kirby can be pretty easy, but I love a lot of the Kirby games. And I'm going to be real. This was one of the most difficult choices for a franchise that I had to make. I was between like 4 different games. I almost really came really close to choosing Kirby's Adventure on NES because I actually really love that game. It is pretty simple in design. Some other games change it up, but it is easily my favorite NES game, and it came really close. It's very special to me, but it just, upon reevaluation, I couldn't. And I do like Forgotten Land, but I've realized I prefer the 2D Kirby's for sure. Return to Dreamland Deluxe earlier this year was great. It came down to me between Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, which were the 2 3DS games. I love 2D Kirby on 3DS. Both games are phenomenal. And to be fair, I think Planet Robobot is probably the more unique and interesting game, but honestly, I mean, it's my favorite, right? I gotta do what I gotta do. It's like, I've replayed Triple Deluxe like at least 3 times, and I've only played through Planet Robobot once, and maybe it's because, like I said, Planet Robobot is more unique, but it might have been too overwhelming in terms of all the different combinations with the Robobot armor and everything, but it was really cool, and I definitely, it's high on my list of games to replay later. But Triple Deluxe, I have just such fond memories of, right? So much of this list is going to be nostalgia. So for me, like Triple Deluxe, I love how it's smooth 60 frames. I love some of the new copy abilities, including Beetle and Bell. Circus is okay, but I love Beetle. Beetle was one of my favorite copy abilities for sure. And it's just like, I don't know. I replayed it a lot. It has I love the final boss and all that encounters and everything. And like, sure, Hypernova, like I said, is not as unique as like the Robobot armor. And like the Robobot armor is definitely the better gimmick. The boss fights are probably a little better in Planet Robobot, but like, I just have such fond memories with this game. It's like, when I think about which one I really love, I'm like, I love Triple Deluxe. You know, it's not the most interesting, but I still love it to this day. I loved it so much. I literally would go and get like all of the keychains. I didn't do the same thing for, I think it was the stickers in Planet Robobot, but I replayed this one so much. So that's why it's here. That's why it's the Kirby rep. All right. I put a lot of the Nintendo franchises right next to each other. I guess that makes sense. We got to talk about Mario, right? I've always preferred Sonic to Mario. That's just because I grew up with Sonic, and I like that kind of gameplay a little more. It's a little faster paced. This is Cuphead? I gotta check something real quick. It is. That's wild. I would not have expected that. This one was also a little tricky. For me, this was between 3 games. One was 2D, 2 were 3D. Odyssey's great. I don't know if it's just too recent for me or what. Maybe it's the 100%ing is a little tricky in that game. And man, Mario 64 I almost put here because I really do love that game. I mentioned before, I think I like it a little more than Banjo-Kazooie. It's not... Banjo-Kazooie is more charm for me, but in terms of the gameplay, Mario 64 is superior. But there's one more Mario game, a 2D one, in fact. And I'm not super hot on 2D Mario, but there is one that sticks out in my mind every time. And no, Yoshi's Island is not a Mario game. Everybody shut up. That game, close though, is Mario World on the Super Nintendo. I have so much nostalgia for this game. So much nostalgia. It is so buttery smooth to play. And here's the thing. I am putting it this high up on my top. These aren't ranked, but I'm putting this up as my Mario rep. Even though when I played this game, I played it on a GameStop Chameleon controller on the Wii Virtual Console. And let me tell you, playing Mario World with a GameCube controller layout is an absolute nightmare. But I still loved the game for what it was. Were some levels frustrating? Sure. But having Yoshi's awesome. You know, the different secret exits and stuff in the worlds are really cool. I don't think I ended up beating all the secret world levels. I did most of them, if I remember correctly. But I remember playing this at my parents' house on one of the last games I probably played on a CRT. Shortly after I got my Wii, the first games I got were Secret Rings and Colors, which is good, and Super Mario World on the Virtual Console. And I remember playing so much Mario World. Even though I didn't grow up with the Super Nintendo original, it's still just like, it's so charming. It was so fun and buttery smooth to play. Similar to my kind of thoughts on Sonic Mania, honestly. And like, this is also very high up on my replay list one day, now that I got the Super Nintendo NSO controller. So I gotta put it here. It is my favorite Mario. What can I say? All right, moving on. We've got more Nintendo for you. So I have not played all the Pokemon generations. I haven't played 2, technically I've played 3, the remakes. 4, I mean, I don't count Legends Arceus, so I guess I haven't played 4, 5, 6, 8, or 9. I haven't played a lot, but listen, I gotta be one of those old people. I have so much nostalgia for Pokemon Yellow. This, along with Sonic Adventure, like I mentioned earlier, was one of the first video games I ever played. I played so much Pokemon Yellow. I will say I've never fully beaten it. I can never do it, especially because a lot of the times I replayed this game, I was a younger kid. My brother would have to help me with some stuff. I do have a funny story about it, but I will save that just to not make this video go on forever. I have so much nostalgia for this game, and like, while it is a lot simpler than the other Pokemon games, I mean, hey, this list is all about nostalgia. So shut up. Like Pokemon Moon, which I have played Gen 7, really fun, a lot more unique than just the regular gym setup. But like, I don't know, it's just something about the original 151. It's all nostalgia. That's really what it is. I will be the first to, well, not the first, I will admit that, you know, but they have a special place in my heart as being one of the first games I've ever played. And it's easily one of the games I could just always go back. I literally, just the other day, in prep for making this list, I was like, you know what, I'm going to fire up Pokemon Yellow. I still have the original Game Boy cartridge, and just played it for like 5 minutes, and it was just like, it felt good. It just felt good to play. I don't know. It's nostalgia, but it is there nonetheless. And I don't know. Cool stuff. But moving on from there. Okay, we're moving on from Nintendo stuff for now. For those of you who know, I'm a big Sega fan. I am also quite a fan of the Jet Set Radio series of games. There was the original, there was Future on the Xbox. I didn't play the GBA version. I think that was about it. Neither of those games are on this list, and the reason for that, I would have put Future. However, these aren't part of the same series, but I felt like I couldn't put both because it felt like it would have been cheating. We got a spiritual successor that came out this year, and the consensus seems to be that people prefer Future overall. I personally prefer Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. This is such a passion project. I think the gameplay is actually phenomenally better than Future. There's so many more options, and it's a little less janky. I honestly find some of the gameplay in Jet Set Radio Future just kind of, I don't know, like a little unbalanced, like a little tricky to play. It is so smooth here. The soundtrack is great. If I had to say which soundtrack's better, I mean, when you have 3 Naganuma songs versus a bunch more in one game, it's like, yeah, I mean, Future's probably the better soundtrack, but they're both really, really good. There was a lot more story here than I was expecting. Like, that blows Future out of the water. I don't know. The one thing I will say is that I think Future has a little more style, but like I said earlier, what really matters for me is control, fluidity of movement, and this game nails that. So that's why I didn't feel like I could put Future as well as this game, because that would be kind of cheating in a way. But either way, Bomber Cyberpunk, love that game. It's one of my favorite games of the year for sure. Speaking of that, this leads into our next entry here. Another game that I really love that I played this year. I would not have expected it, but it just vibed with me so much. Just so much. And it was an Xbox game of all things. And you guys also might know where I'm going with this. That game... What? No way. You gotta... Bro. Thank you. Oh, it's because I forgot the hyphen. I was about to say. They don't even have Hi-Fi Rush, but they have Bomber Cyberpunk. Kind of similar vibes in a way to Bomber Cyberpunk, but man, this game like speaks to me. This game made me so much better at like action games. If that's what do you call those? Like combo action? I don't even know what you consider that genre. Like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, all those. This game made me so much better at parrying because now I can time my attacks and parries to a beat. And then we're good. Also, phenomenal soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks of the year for sure. I love the presentation, the cell shading, the comic book kind of style. The voice actors across the board do a great job. I love the characters here. They're so like, it's cheesy, but it's fun. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. It's just like, normally this game would like, I do like these kind of combo act, whatever you call those. I do like those kind of games, but I'm not in love with them as much as usually like I am with like platformers, for example. But this game, just the presentation, the music, the vibes, the final boss is really cool. A lot of the bosses here are great. They almost feel like Mega Man bosses where they're all kind of themed. It's an amazing package. And just to kind of come out of nowhere like that and they shadow drop it, it's just like, man, I love this game. I love Hi-Fi Rush. It is a great, great game. I went after that and did like the hard mode. There were extra challenges and stuff like that. I haven't done all of the DLC ones, but in terms of like the ones that were in the main game, I love this game. It's great. It's great. Oh my god, this video's gonna be so long. All right. You know how I mentioned Mega Man before? Mega Man is here. However, some of you may know I'm not a huge fan of the classic games. Like 2 and 3 I love. Those are great games. However, I gotta say, like, I don't particularly love the gameplay style. However, Mega Man X, on the other hand, is a favorite of mine, and I gotta go with the original. I love the original Mega Man X. It was the first one I played. It was one of the first Mega Man games I played back on when they added on mobile, and I beat it there. But then I played it on the Legacy Collection, and man, it is easily my favorite one. 4 is really good too, and I also do like 8 quite a bit, but the original is just classic for me. The gameplay, the getting the upgrades and stuff like that, the music, it's all just a really, really good package and just a fun 2D platform. I love the movement. Again, it comes down to movement, right? So really love Mega Man X. That is why it is here. And of course, Storm Eagles are great. All right. Now, moving on to a game. I'm trying to find really stupid segues for these. Moving on to a game that X is in. Might be a crossover game. It is an interesting crossover game that not a lot of people, I feel like, talk about. I don't know how well I think it's sold okay. It has 2 games in the series, so no, not Marvel vs. Capcom. And also, you may know I'm not a huge RPG guy, but these are, I guess they're kind of strategy. They're technically strategy RPGs, I think. Those games are Project Cross Zone. Now, I love me some crossovers. I'm such a sucker when it comes to crossovers. I really am. And the question is, which one do I pick? I personally have to go with the second one. Because first of all, overall, I think I like the characters more in terms of the different character selection. You've got so many characters here. And 2 specifically, you have some like Kiryu and Majima from Yakuza they add in there. They add Phoenix and Maya from Ace Attorney, just to name a couple examples. They got some characters out, like Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins was in the original. That would have been cool to have. But like the different bosses here are great. They have Nintendo characters. So they have Chrom and Lucina from Fire Emblem Awakening, and they also have Fiora, which not spoiling anything, Fiora is in the game from Xenoblade Chronicles. That's all I'm gonna say. But she's in the game, and really cool character there. But yes, it's a really fun crossover game. It's a little mindless, I will admit, but I prefer the second one personally. First of all, it's very flashy. Second of all, I'm a sucker for crossover, so I love to see the characters interact. Third, the opening in 2 is amazing. The first one's okay, but what I really love about the second game is it feels more balanced, and the chapters are broken up. Essentially, there's almost, if I remember correctly, twice as many chapters in 2 as there are in the original. There's like 50 chapters in 2. It's like maybe 40, I don't remember. It's like a 50-hour game. It's a long game. But I prefer the shorter chapters. The first game, the issue with that one is the chapters were way too long to individually complete. It would take me like 2 hours to do a chapter. So luckily here they made it a little snappier. And I just prefer for that. And I love like I said, it's a little mindless. It's kind of a blend of a strategy RPG and like a fighting game in a way, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but really fun to just kind of watch, and it's very flashy, but I just love the crossover elements, it makes it a lot of fun for me, so that is why it is there. Moving on from there, we've got, oh, you can't see the poster on the side, it is not here. A lesser known game, some of you may know it, I'm sure some of you have heard of it, especially if you have tuned into this channel. I did stream this game last year, and that was No More Heroes. Now, there are 4 games in the series. Definitely Travis Strikes Again is not on this list. I actually really don't like that game, so it's not here. I ultimately decided on 2. I personally love No More Heroes 2. I almost put 3. In terms of the gameplay, 3 is more interesting for sure. However, what I will say is that 2 has a lot of blade options, like not just your standard beam katana. There's a lot of different ones you can equip. I loved the dual wielding ones, which I don't think were in 3. I loved that. I love how smooth it is. The soundtrack I honestly prefer. And 3 is a case kind of like my issues with some of the later John Wick movies. 3 in particular. It's just like, it's almost too crazy for its own good. Like, yes, it is very Studio 51 to have like aliens come down and Travis has to take them all out, but like, I think I prefer the slightly more grounded approach of 2, where they still keep the assassin rankings. They cut the open world, which honestly I think is for the better. The one especially the first game, but also 3, I'm not a huge fan of the open world in that game. It's a lot snappier with different menus, and the mini games are way more fun, I think, in 2. And I'm sorry, I'm such a sucker for Travis and Sylvia's story in 2. I absolutely love that. I love what they did with the ending. It's so cliche, but I love it. It's so good. So yeah, I prefer that game, and I love the style, like I said, of No More Heroes. I just love that vibe, and I love the character of Travis and all the side characters there. So that's why 2 was the rep there. But moving on, I mean, you guys know, I said earlier, I'm a sucker for crossover games. This one's a no-brainer. Super Smash Bros. Had to be here. However, which one? This is also kind of a no-brainer. I am not one of those Melee diehards. I actually, spoiler alert, I do not like Melee. Anyways, that we'll save that for another hot take video or something. Ultimate is the ultimate. It's the ultimate crossover game. It is so good. The fighting is so refined. It took what Smash 4 did and just made it so much better. The single player World of Light I actually really like, and to this day I debate whether I like it more than Subspace Emissary or not, because Subspace Emissary and Brawl, I don't know, just some of the platforming is kind of in those levels, but like I would say it's a little less repetitive than World of Light. But I almost put Brawl instead of Ultimate because I have a lot of nostalgia for it. That was the first Smash game I played on my own time, but Ultimate is just, it's the ultimate game. They've got Banjo, they've got K. Rool, some of my most wanted characters in there. We've also got awesome picks like Sora and Ridley and Simon Belmont and like all these really cool characters. And it's just, we're never going to get anything like it again. It is so refined. The single player is actually great compared to what they had in Smash 4 at least. And there's just so many options like Smashdown and another one I'm trying to think of. They have Echo Fighters in here, which are cool. It's just like, objectively, I mean, if you prefer styles of other games, you could prefer ones over the other, but this is my favorite Smash for sure. Along the same line, let's just get this one out of the way now. Mario Kart is classic. Mario Kart, classic multiplayer game. I love the karting. I haven't played too many on my own, to be honest, but similar thinking to Smash Ultimate. Oh, I spelled that wrong. I gotta go with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe specifically because it has the most content, especially with all the DLC coming out. I mean, they brought back Wiggler from 7. My most wanted racer. Like, come on. Come on. 7, I'm honestly not a huge fan of the original 7. for Mario Kart. You know, it was good, but like I definitely have more memories of DS, and DS would have been the runner-up for this pick. I have a lot of nostalgia for that, and the mission mode was awesome. But like Mario Kart just has the most refined controls in terms of the boosting and the drift, like and the drifting. It feels so good to play, and it's one of those games I could easily pick up and play any day of the week, play with friends, or just play online. It's one of the only games I play online, and huge roster, so many customizable kart pieces and everything. It's hard for me to deny any other Mario Kart game. So it's a great one, so we got to put it there. Now, remember earlier when I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of RPGs? You may have heard me say that when I was talking about Project Crosszone 2. There was one RPG that I played for the first time last year. For those of you who watch my top 10 games, top 10 older games that I played in 2022, this was the #1 game for that. This game has completely changed my perspective on RPGs. And that game is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This game, I've never played the original Wii version. I've only played Definitive Edition. But one of my friends, shout out to Jared, friend of the channel, told me to play this game. He's like, you gotta play Xenoblade. He's a huge Xenoblade fan. He's like, you gotta play Xenoblade. I'm like, all right. Eventually, I got it on sale with some other physical games for Switch. I said, okay, I will give Definitive Edition a chance. And man, I'm so glad I did. The game, here's the thing. The game is really long. I made a video talking about this a little while ago. You know, you could compare the length of this game to a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like this game respects your time more because I didn't have like that same like absolute like need, like feeling of needing to do everything like I did in Tears of the Kingdom. But I did it anyway. I did all the side quests, even though a lot of them were a little trivial. I still did them because I really just enjoyed learning about exploring the world, learning about the different NPCs and characters there. Speaking of the characters, oh my god, this is some of my favorite core cast of characters in any games I've ever played. All of them are great, honestly. No, I don't hate any of those characters. They're some of my favorites for sure, and the music's amazing. I will say when you get to, without spoiling too much, when you get to the Mechonis area, it kind of drags a little bit for me. But besides that, man, the ending is absurdly cool, and just like, I don't know, it's just such a fun game to run around and just like take in the environment, take in the world. This game has such a realized world, and I love the action RPG elements. I prefer, after playing this, action RPGs to like turn-based. I'm not a huge fan of turn-based RPGs, but these kind, you know, I really ended up enjoying the gameplay of this game and how fast-paced it still was. And this makes me want to play 2 and 3 and actually revisit X, which I never fully beat on Wii U. So I think I will do that one day, but like, man, talk about being so glad that a game just completely changed my perspective on a genre. You know, this is that game. It's so good. Give it a shot if you're any bit curious. It can be quite long, especially if you do some of the side stuff, but a lot of it's also optional, so you don't have to. Anyways, we'll put that there. We'll throw another RPG here. Why not? I'm not putting these in any order. While we're here, not an action RPG. This one's actually another strategy RPG, kind of like Project Crosszone 2, like I mentioned earlier, but this one's way more refined. It is a long-lasting Nintendo franchise that this was the first one I played of, and I absolutely fell in love with this game. And that game is Fire Emblem Awakening. Speaking of characters I love, man, I love the core cast of Fire Emblem Awakening. This game just is so much fun. I'll admit I do like the idea of like shipping all of my different like enemies, and all my units together and like seeing what happens. And they have the whole baby mechanic, and it's really cute, and I eat that shit up. But like even just like the gameplay itself, like I was very engrossed with the story and the gameplay. And like this game is the one that got me into strategy RPG specifically because I want to give more of them a chance now because I really do love this game. I love the character support conversations in this game. I love, honestly, the battle system with the weapons triangle is a really cool idea. I'm not like in love with the gameplay. I'd still prefer the action RPG gameplay of Xenoblade over this, but it's still really fun. And I've played so many more Fire Emblem games because I love this game so much. And so, I don't know, I just love the characters. The gameplay's still really fun. I hate chess too. I just want to say that up front. This is like almost advanced chess with like actual characters for me. And I loved it, and I love the game. So it is a really fun game for me. Great story, great characters. It can be a little broken with the partner mechanic, but you know what? That's why I loved it. So we got Fire Emblem up there. All right, we got 10 more slots, and this video is going to be stupidly long. I don't know how to shorten these. I have so much to say about these games. How do I make this video short? I don't know how we do it. Anyways, moving on here, away from RPGs. I think we're done with RPGs on the list. Okay, we've only got these 3 here. Those are the only RPGs you're getting. Very much not an RPG. We're going back to platformers, 3D platformers specifically at that. These were classic back on the, I'm going to group these 2 together. These were classic back on the PS1, and I recently replayed like the rebooted kind of remastered versions of these games. Honestly, kind of remakes. Very recently, in the last few years. And those are Crash and Spyro, right? Both, I put one of each on this list because they're kind of a pair. I actually learned, I think I prefer Spyro. You know, I do like the frenetic gameplay of Crash a lot, but I think I slightly prefer just kind of the more collectathon, kind of a little more laid back experience of Spyro. Specifically, Spyro 2. That was definitely my favorite of the 3. Is that the right one? Is it called Season of Flame? What is Spyro 2 called? What's the subtitle? Ripto's Rage, right. I cannot see what that says. I hope that's in Spyro 2. Oh, I see the 2 in the background, right. I gotcha. Spyro 2 in particular, I really liked the upgrade system in that game. I actually streamed that game a couple years ago, back when like nobody watched my streams, but really enjoyed it. And like, the first game's fun. 3's also really good, but I'm not a huge fan of the different playable characters, honestly, in that game. I prefer the more streamlined approach of Spyro 2, and just really fun, really charming gameplay, and it's just moving around with Spyro, doing the charge and then jumping and gliding. It feels so good. And I love the collectathons. I love collectathons in general. That's why Banjo-Kazooie almost made the list, but like Spyro the difference between this and Banjo for me is Spyro is just way more fun to actually control. So the moves they come out more naturally for me personally, just my gameplay style. So I love it for that. It's a really fun game to play. I would easily go back to it. Now, when it comes to Crash, this one I have a little bit of a different take on compared to Spyro. I almost put Crash 2 for how streamlined it was, but I honestly really like Crash 3. Warped, as they say in the title screen of it. Really like this game. I actually kind of like the different vehicle sections here, like the motorcycle with Crash and the jet ski with Coco. And while I prefer Spyro slightly more in terms of gameplay, I will say I do love just how the platforming with Crash here and the different different themes, like the prehistoric, the medieval time period, the future time period. I love that theming in this game. I think that makes it really stand out from the other Crash games and very unique. And the bosses I find really fun. And yeah, it's really fun. I love platformers, and it's another amazing platformer that I'm glad to see Crash kind of making more of a comeback in recent times. Crash 4 is also really good, but man, that game is tough, especially if you try to go after all the collectibles, which I love doing. I know it's optional, but I love doing it. It's when a game has a terrible 100% mechanic, it ruins it for me. Whereas Crash 3, the Platinum Relics I do hate, but besides that, I love the game. I love the theming. I love the gameplay of it. So those 2, we got them covered. Now we're getting to some more of the interesting picks. This one is one and the only first-person shooter on this list. And remember earlier when we were talking about Dread, when I mentioned Metroid Prime and how I just really did not like, not that I didn't like it, but I really did not prefer Samus's control method in there. Well, let me tell you, there is another game that feels like Metroid Prime at parts, but is way more energetic, and the platforming is way better. I'm just gonna straight up say it. And that game, you're not gonna see this coming, is Doom Eternal. Man, I don't have much experience with Doom. I played 2016 and that was really fun on Switch. But when I played Eternal, this was the game that I bought for myself to be like, I'm going to test out my new gaming PC and push the limits, right? Besides Witcher 3. And man, this game, it's so fun. And like, there are specific platforming moments I think of with like using Doom Guy's grappling hook to grapple onto like a climbable surface, and you climb around and do crazy jumps. And it's like, sure, it sacrifices a little bit of realism for that smooth platforming, but I'm always for that. I don't need my Doom to be utterly realistic. There are freaking demons everywhere. You're on Mars or you're in hell or wherever the hell it's happening. You know what I mean? It's really fun. And I'm not a huge fan of first-person shooters, but I will say like I really do enjoy the gameplay of this game. It's very frenetic. I mean, the soundtrack really helps. And just like the idea of the ammo management, I actually think is done really well. And I love the collectibles more so than Doom 2016 as well. You know, you kind of have this hub area that you kind of go back to, and like you can spend your collectibles to unlock certain parts of the space station you're on. It's really cool. And I love the gameplay of it, you know, the first person shooter part of it, being able to grapple onto enemies and then you reach them and punch them in the face as you get there. I don't know if Doom 2016 had a grapple. Let me know in the comments if it did, but I don't remember it having that. But man, it's so fun. And then getting like the BFG and just blowing everybody up. It's so satisfying. It gets your blood pumping. It could be frustrating too when you don't do what you want to do, but man, is it so good. And it's like surprisingly fun platforming. And like, honestly, I think I might like this game more than Metroid Prime. I mean, I guess in that case, Metroid Prime would have made the list, but like, it's not a one-to-one comparison, I know, but it's like, you know, Metroid still has the superior exploration and collectibles and stuff, but man, the flow of movement in Doom Eternal is so much better in my opinion. But anyways, really fun, kind of surprising game for me how much I enjoyed it, but I really did. Moving on, an IP that I really love personally, some of you may know this, a lot of you might not though, I really haven't brought it up a ton, is Batman. Now, some of you may know that a little developer called Rocksteady made some very highly acclaimed Batman games. Previously, there was Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. WB Montreal also made Arkham Origins. And hey, I just want to say, Arkham Origins is not a bad game. That gets a bad rap. That's not the one that made the list, though. For me, it was between Asylum and City. And this was so tough because both games are phenomenal. I would maybe argue that City's the better game, and I think it's the more popular pick. However, man, I love Asylum. I love how much more contained it is. I really do. Like, I love the focus of this game. It honestly is kind of like a Metroidvania in a way. It's like a 3D Metroidvania, you know, compared to City, which is much more open. And like you could do so much more. I will say the boss fights overall are really a lot better, I think, in City. But I love this game's atmosphere. You know, it's contained to the one Arkham Asylum island, but like I prefer this kind of style, you know, and just the gameplay of it. It's pretty similar to City, but yeah, more contained. But I love the atmosphere. I love the collectibles. And honestly, going back to what I said before, where collecting everything is totally optional, right? I've collected everything in both this game and City. City was such a pain with the Riddler trophies. If you know, you know. This game is so much more contained, and as a result, it's really fun to kind of get the different collectibles and explore. There's a whole side story about like the spirit of Arkham that you can explore. And using the scanning ability is really cool. And man, without spoiling anything, the Scarecrow moments, I literally shut off my Xbox because I thought something was up. Once again, if you know, you know. But I love this game. I love how contained it is. Just like the smooth, like the focused gameplay. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. The bosses are better in City. It's more open. City's probably the better game, but I have a softer spot for Arkham Asylum, just slightly more. It's just such a good game. Maybe I'll play it one day. Be a good Halloween game one day. But moving on from there, another IP that I enjoy quite a bit is Star Wars. Now, Star Wars has had so many games over the years. I'm sure a bunch of you out there who are Star Wars fans love like Knights of the Old Republic, for example. That's a really popular one. I've never played that, so it's not on this list. I have played Force Unleashed, the first one, which is pretty fun. It's pretty good. Still haven't played like Fallen Order or Survivor. Heard really good things, but one day those will be on the list. However, this one that you might not be expecting is a bit of like a nostalgia pull for me, and that one is Star Wars Battlefront 2 specifically. The classic one, not the modern one that EA did. I'm talking mid-2000s Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is a contender besides like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Smash Ultimate. This is a contender for me for one of the games I put the most time into. I have played so much. I had all my different friend groups. Like I played it with my brother, I played it with my high school friends, and then I met my friends in college. And they're like, "Yeah, we love Star Wars Battlefront 2. Let's fucking play online." And they brought back like the online servers a few years ago on PC, so we've been playing there. I love this game. This game is one reason why I'm so big into Star Wars. It is such a celebration of the IP, you know, including both the Clone Wars and the original trilogy eras. And it's like, it's phenomenally, it's such a big improvement from the original. I played the original classic Battlefront as well. Just the addition of the Jedi Sith mechanic is so good, you know, and the maps are really interesting. Overall better, I would say, but I will say I do miss some of the more interesting maps from the original classic Battlefront, like Renvar comes to mind. But like so many more interesting maps in this game. The campaign is really cool. It kind of focuses on the, you know, not to spoil too much, but the 501st, the Clone Patrol, and what happens to them after the event, and how it kind of leads into different eras, and it's really cool. I really like the campaign in this game. And I just have so many good memories with it. And not a first-person shooter, it's a third-person shooter, but I have such good memories playing this with friends, and even just the campaign. So really like it. It is here. We got to wrap this up. It's been 45 minutes. I got 5 more games. We're so close. I'm so sorry for this video being long. But there we go. That's a bit of a personal pick there. Now, where are we? Okay. If I had an indie game, yeah, I guess Bomber Cyberpunk's an indie game, so we can get that. But this one is definitely more of like, when you think indie game, this might be one of the games you think of. And it's an amazing game. I really like it, and it's had so much more content over the years. And the developers have a game coming up maybe next year. I don't know if we know the official release date. That game is Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. I have played Dig. I'm not a huge fan of roguelikes, so it did not make the list. The only side mode I've played is actually Spectre of Torment. I haven't done Plague of Shadows or King of Cards or Showdown even, but I'm talking about the classic core Shovel Knight experience there, like the main campaign. Remember earlier when I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of classic Mega Man? This game, because it takes a lot of inspiration from classic Mega Man, this game is far and away superior to classic Mega Man gameplay for me. The introduction of the shovel introduces new platforming, and you get different magical items that you can equip, and you know, based on the knights that you defeat, you know? So it's really, really cool stuff that goes on here. Just core tight 2D platforming. Got a little like town you can go back to and like explore a little bit, and the side characters are really fun with that yacht club charm. And the ending's great. It can be pretty challenging, but definitely not classic Mega Man challenging. It is a little, I would say it's more approachable than that. And it has so much flair. You know, it's like, okay, Mega Man's in the future. Well, let's make a game that's like Mega Man, but in the past. So they come up with Shovel Knight. And I mean, hell, you can tell how iconic this character is, considering all the side games that they've made, and then all the appearances and other indie games with Shovel Knight. Hell, Shovel Knight's an assist trophy in Smash. This game is like culturally, I don't want to say massive, but you know what I mean. Like, this game is huge. This is one of the pinnacle indie games. And it's honestly, if you're a 2D platformer fan, I feel like, I don't want to say you have to play Shovel Knight, but you really should consider it, because music's phenomenal. Gameplay is just super tight. The shovel adds so, you would think it's just like, oh, a little dinky thing. It adds so much variety to 2D platforming. Think like the pogo stick from DuckTales, right, with Scrooge. Pretty much you could do that with a shovel, and you could dig up stuff, and the checkpoint system is really forgiving too. That's a really cool checkpoint system. So overall, really great game with a lot of variety in terms of platforming. I'd highly recommend putting it on your list if you're a fan of 2D platformers, especially classic 2D Mega Man. But what else we got? Oh, here's an interesting pick unique to me that some of you may know for, that I've brought it up a couple times. This was originally supposed to be a Nintendo game. Well, the first game was. This is not the first game. But unfortunately, got denied by Nintendo. And this was actually before Mario 64 was even unveiled to the public. A little janky of a game, but I have so much nostalgia for this game. Also, one of the first games I ever played. And that game is Croc 2. Not Croc 1 Legend of the Gobbos. I actually have not played that game to this day. But man, I play this game on the PC all the damn time. I've also played the Game Boy Color game, and it's also, I enjoy quite a bit. It is really not, I would even hesitate to call it a great game. It's really fun though. I love this game, along with Sonic Adventure, established my love of 3D platformers. Honestly, I think this game established my love for collectathons. because there were a lot of items you could collect, mainly the gems in this game. And there's also little side stuff, like you could do like a boat race, or you could that was the one I always remember. I honestly, like, some of my memories past like World 3 are kind of like but I love just the feel of charm of this game. It's definitely janky. Made by Argonaut, actually, the ones who made the original Star Fox and the canceled Star Fox 2, which originally supposed to be conceived as a Yoshi game, apparently. Yoshi 3D platformer, but hey, I'm fine with it not being Yoshi because I have so much nostalgia for this game. Like I said, controls a little, especially on PC, controls a little awkwardly. It kind of has tank controls for a platformer, which can be really tricky, but like, I couldn't not put it on this list because I have so many memories of this game, you know? So, had to be here. I love the collectibles. I love how the characters talk, kind of similar to that Banjo-Kazooie type of speech. So, it's gotta be here. Anyways, might seem like a weird pick, but it's gotta be here. It feels right to me to have it here. And I gotta have some personal picks, so there we go. There is Croc 2. All right, we're almost there. We're so close. We're so close. Come on. We're so close. This is gonna be my longest video. No. All right. Remember how I mentioned Half-Life earlier as an honorable mention? This one is another Valve game. Did make the list. The question is, and you probably know which one it is, which one would it be, right? Most people would prefer the sequel. The sequel expanded a lot on the gameplay, expanded a lot on the story, and made things interesting. However, one thing that comes to the series for me a lot, that means a lot to me, is the replayability of it. And I gotta say, just the original Portal, not 2. I considered 2. I think I kind of prefer, similar to Arkham Asylum, I prefer the more focused approach with this game. When I got my Steam Deck earlier this year of this recording, the first thing I did was replay all of Portal 1, and I beat it in like 2.5 hours, sure. But that was a great 2.5 hours, you know? And with Gyro, this game feels so good. I mean, Portal itself is such a unique concept. I'm not a huge puzzle guy, but when you combine it with a platformer, then I'm interested, you know? And there's some really cool puzzles and stuff you can do here. It's got that Valve charm of like the early PC days. Well, early, I say early like 2000s PC days. It's just like, I don't know. And like, I think it's because of how short it is and replayable and like concise it is. I think I prefer it to 2, because there were puzzles in 2 that made it feel a little bloated to me. The gel was cool in 2, but I honestly prefer just the focus on just the portal gun in the original. You know, I think it made for some more... It's one of those cases where, like, when you limit your tool set, it makes for more interesting puzzle designs. You know, it means you have to design more interesting puzzles. So I kind of prefer that in the original Portal. And the final boss I honestly love against, you know who, I won't say just in case, for spoilers, even though it's kind of an old game. But anyways, it's great. I love the final boss. And it's such a fun game to play through, you know, and it's a great Steam Deck game too. So I'd recommend giving it a shot there if you haven't already, if you have a Steam Deck. It's a fun little charming game, and I love it, you know? Makes me think, too. Gets my brain juices going. All right, we got 2 more. We're so close. This game, I know I mentioned earlier that I'm not a huge fan of, like, combo action. Let me know in the comments if there's an actual name for that genre. I'm thinking, like, the action games where you're beating up enemies and you put in different combos to attack, right? I am not a fan. I don't want to say I'm not a fan. I don't absolutely adore those kinds of games. It's one reason why I really can't get into a lot of fighting games where you're constantly doing, you know, combos against your enemy. At least with the combo action games, as I'm calling them now, it's like, it feels less stressful to me personally. And Hi-Fi Rush, I mean, because of the music theming, made it easier for me to get through that game, right? It actually made it click with me a lot. This game, I wouldn't say it clicked with me as much as Hi-Fi Rush, but it did resonate with me a lot. And mainly for the style and for the characters, the gameplay was still over the top and really fun. In a similar way to like Hi-Fi Rush. Honestly, in a similar way to No More Heroes. I feel like No More Heroes, it kind of makes sense a lot. It's kind of a, in terms of like the humor and the style, well, not the style, but the humor, it's kind of a similar idea to No More Heroes. But very flashy, very fun, and just overall really good time. And that is Bayonetta. I'm just playing through Devil May Cry 3 now, actually, this recording. So haven't had much chance of that, but it's fun to see where the inspirations from Bayonetta come, or previous like Devil May Cry come in Bayonetta, you know, having played all those games, and I played all of them. I played 1 through 3, and I played Origins. Origins is definitely not on this list. I'm sorry. Fine game, not on this list. I was debating. I know a lot of people love 2. 2 is actually my least favorite. I was debating between 1 and 3. And while I really like the introduction of like the giant summons you can do in 3, it's a similar situation to, oh, which one was it? Oh, what game was I talking about? Oh, No More Heroes 3. Yeah, it's a similar situation to me with No More Heroes 2 versus 3, where it's so over the top. Viola, I'm not a huge fan of her gameplay style. I like her character, but her gameplay style can be a little tricky, except her grappling hook's cool. And the Jean sections are just kind of dumb. The original Bayonetta is so concise, right? There's a theming in this video. For a lot of these games, it's all about how concise and contained and focused these games are. Same thing with Spyro 2, same thing with No More Heroes 2, same thing with Arkham Asylum, right? Same thing with Mega Man X. You know, they're just very focused and they excel at what they set out to do. Bayonetta, while I'm not a huge fan of learning the different combos and moves to input, it is so flashy, it is so fun. The style is through the roof. I love kind of like the gothic vibe of this game. I love, of course, Bayonetta herself. Jean is great. Enzo, Rodin, Luca, you know, the whole squad. And the whole idea, I will not spoil the ending, but the twist was really good. And the final boss was brutal for me, but I really enjoyed the spectacle of it. The boss fights in this game are a huge highlight. I love the bosses. They are absurd, over the top, and great in this game. And I mean, a lot of that was carried from Devil May Cry, as I'm now figuring out now playing 3. It's just, I love the style. I love that vibe. And it's just, oh, spooky music. It fits. It's just, it's a really fun game. Just, I don't know. It's tough to, what else can I say? You know, there's really not much else to say. It feels so good to control Bayonetta. That's a big thing for me too. To do which time to kind of like sprint and run around in like the Panther form, or fly around in, I think she has the Crow if I remember correctly. It's been a few years since I've played it, but it's so fun. It's so, compared to 3, it's so much more contained. Like I said, I love the different weapons you can equip and like the giant demon summons you can do in 3. This game is so much smoother. It is so much smoother. It's so much more contained. And I think it creates a better experience overall for me personally. But that's why I love that. All right, final game. We only got 1 slot left. This video's an hour, and there's no sugarcoating that. Another indie game. We're going to throw another indie game here. Some of you may know this. I actually have streamed the most recent game in this series on the channel here about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And these ones, they're well known, but they're not like super popular, but they're really fun. They kind of have a lot of Nintendo DNA. And they're honestly really fun to play. They've kind of shifted genres a little bit. But that game is Shantae. I love Shantae. I love the characters. It's adorable. Although sometimes they go a little too much into like the weird like fan servicey part of it. This game especially does it, but I still prefer this game in terms of gameplay to the others. Seven Sirens is okay. Half Genie Hero is really fun, but it is another 2D platformer, which, I mean, those are fine, but it didn't really feel like the core DNA of this series. This series has really, in a ways, been like a dungeon exploration Metroidvania game. You know, that's kind of what most of the games in the series are, and Seven Sirens went back to that. Half Genie Hero was great soundtrack too. But I got to give it to Pirate's Curse, because Pirate's Curse, while it doesn't have the staple animal transformation mechanic, I actually do think Seven Sirens does the best job of the animal transformation mechanic. Half Genie Hero Solid 2, in the first 2 games, it was just a little tedious. And so playing this game, it's so much smoother because, yes, while they got rid of the animal transformations, the pirate abilities are so good. The cannonball jump, the hat glide, using the scimitars to attack. It's so much smoother. And it makes for, like, when you're able to, like, there's some areas in different dungeons where you have to, like, chain together those moves, and it feels so good to do. You know, it's the gameplay is buttery smooth. I love the pixel art. And then in the cutscenes, you get, like, I think it's hand-drawn art that's really stylish. Like I said, there's especially one part of this game where they get a little too much into the fan servicey parts of it, and it's weird because it's like, okay. So it gets a little weird there. But, like, the game's I really like the characters themselves overall, like Shantae, of course, herself, and then her uncle, and, like, Bolo, Sky, Roddy Tops, you know, the whole crew. They're just really fun. this is the one. This is the pick in terms of the series for me, just because the gameplay is, I would say, my favorite out of all of them. Seven Sirens, like in terms of the gameplay, it's pretty smooth. Wasn't a huge fan of just like some of the design choice. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it was originally an Apple Arcade game, and then they made it into a full console release. Half Genie Hero also came really close, but it's just because it's not that dungeon exploration Metroidvania style game. You know, it's that 2D platformer, which it's still really fun, but I feel like it missed a little bit because of that. Love the writing in these games too, especially Pirate's Curse is so cheeky, and I love it. It's so good. It's just fun all around to explore. And of course, soundtrack, Jake Kaufman. Forgot to mention him for Shovel Knight, but amazing work there. And it's full of a lot of charm, you know? It's full of a lot of charm. So that is why it's there. All right, guys, this video's been over an hour. I don't know. Listen, not related to this video. I don't know how to make these videos not this long, because I need to explain why I love these games. 25 games, how long am I talking about them? I mean, I guess if I'm spending too much time. I don't know. And I know I did the honorable mentions. It's just like, gaming is such a big passion of mine. And I mean, if you're watching this video, it's probably, I imagine, an interesting passion for you too. But it's like, I can't not make this video this long, right? I gotta gush about these games because they're my favorites. They're my little babies, you know? And I had to kill 10 of them in order to get here. But like, I can't not gush about them, you know? I gotta justify why they're my favorites. So I sincerely apologize for this video literally being over an hour. If you made it, like, I guess it's fitting that this one would be. If you made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't need to review all the games because you can see them all right there. The names are there. But you got your Sonics, your Nintendos, you've got your Bayonetta, you've got your Croc 2, as everybody should have in their top 25. But with that, let me know your thoughts on this list in the comments below, and my 10 honorable mentions I had too. Let me know your favorite games. Let me know. This list was such a struggle to make. This video is too long to record. Hope you enjoyed. You got what you got. I will see you all on the next video or live stream, and until then, take care.